Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe already it's Thursday, 23rd of June? The year is absolutely flying by. Wherever you are in the world, you are very, very welcome to the Chatbox Business Breakfast Show with myself, 𝗪𝗵𝗲, and my very good friend, co-founder, Mr. David Bell. How are you, my friend?
Yes, good morning, Nick. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another Business Breakfast Show. Exciting breakfast show this morning because we're going to be talking about international business. So maybe you are still thinking about creating a business, getting it off the ground. Maybe you're a startup already up and running, or maybe you're a bit more kind of long in the tooth and you've been trading for many years. But quite a lot of businesses, certainly in the UK, and of course, if you're watching this from other destinations around the world, flip it around wherever you are, wants to push out and trade into other economies. So for us, it's about, can we trade with Europe? Could we trade with the US, get over the pond? Where could we start to sell our products and services? Or maybe where could we buy new products and services, skills and resources? So that's what this morning's show is all about. It's all about international business. And we're going to explore it in a little bit more detail in a short while. So it's going to be great. Lots to learn and lots to share as well.
Yeah, fascinated. I've never really considered, my business going international. I've worked abroad, I've done speaking gigs abroad. Lovely, great to travel and work. Never really thought, okay, how do I transition this business, me, consultancy, speaking, training, into a more international concern. Some questions I have for our lovely guests today, two very powerful guests coming on the show for you, lovely audience. Get involved, ask your questions, let us know your thoughts. Are you already trading internationally? Are you thinking about it? Is it a consideration? Have you not, like me, not really considered it, but thought, oh, that might be quite a cool idea? Ask some questions. We'll put those to our fabulous panel. And hopefully between us, we'll learn a thing or two and we'll come up with some answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like Connor Stewart's done. Good morning, Connor. Thank you for joining us on the breakfast show this morning. If you do want to join in the conversation, you can use the chat on your favorite platform. We are streaming out live across the air to LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. So if you're on one of those channels, you can use the chat, pop it in. We'll see your message and we'll give you a shout out like we just did to Connor. And Connor, well, coming on the show middle of July time is a startup business. Very exciting because we had him on the 𝘄𝗵𝗵𝗁 live show earlier this week, and we got eating chili sauces and having great conversation all about the environment and stuff like that. And I will say Connor makes some spectacular hot sauces. So if you want to learn more about that, join us. I think it's the 14th of July. We've got him penciled in to come along and talk about how he got his business up and running.
So many stories out there. I guess everyone right now, you're working away. Hopefully you're watching us at the same time. You've started a business. You know, what a story you've got from that. You know what? I think this is a good idea, and you turn it into a business. Everyone's story seems different. And some of those stories will involve international activities. And I'm fascinated to know what steps do we take? How do we do it? Right? Which direction do we go in? Because I know flying internationally right now, mate, is a bit of a challenge. Is that right?
Well, you could say that. I think what we should kick off with is this. Some of you might remember this 80s film. It's an absolute classic, but here it is. It's yes, it's planes, trains, and automobiles, which is kind of a bit of a perfect theme for this morning, to be perfectly honest. Let's just drop that back down so you can see the beauty of Nick and I. You might say, actually, leave that picture up. It's far better. But planes, trains, and automobiles, great film. And I want to kind of flip this around into an international business scenario because at the moment, as you just said, Nick, flying, it's a challenge. Even if you get to the airport and you've got your passport, because there is still issues with people getting passports and stuff like that, because the workers are still working from home and they're refusing. And I think that's still the case in some cases. They're still refusing to go back to the office. So that's what's delaying your passport. Of course, there's a backlog as well because Brexit, people didn't renew. And sorry, not Brexit, pandemic, people didn't renew their passports. And also probably Brexit because we're having to have new style passports and everything as well. Of course, they've changed from that maroon red to a dark blue, almost black. So let's talk about flying. When you get to the airports, if you get there, you've got your passport, you check in. The trouble is, delays look a little bit like this. This is Heathrow Airport on the weekend. And this is
my bag.
Some of the luggage that's piled up there. As you can see, it looks a bit, well, what bag's yours, Nick? Can you spot it? It's like, where's Wally?
Yeah, there it is. It's underneath that other person's bag. I'm not seeing that again.
But what we're going to do is we're going to cross over to our reporter who is not live. We pre-recorded this. Let's have an update and actually see, because actually I think the video makes it look dramatic. But let's see what it's like at Heathrow over the weekend. This was Friday afternoon, early evening.
A baggage system malfunction at London's Heathrow Airport saw a huge pile-up of luggage at Terminal 2 on Friday. Many passengers were left without luggage, some having to fly without their bags. It's the latest in a series of disruptions at UK airports caused by major staff shortages. Airlines have been accused of failing to anticipate post-COVID demand for flights.
And thank you to Euronews and give us an update there. But that's pretty manic, isn't it? So even if you get to your destination, you've got no clothes or a toothbrush or anything, unless you've taken it on taking it onto the actual plane itself.
Wouldn't it be amazing, right? If every single one of those bags got to the destination, correct destination, as early as possible, right? Everyone panicked. Oh my God, I've seen my bag in this crazy pile of cases. But every single one arrived as expected, the right destination. I can't imagine it did. If you lost a bag and one of those was yours, let us know. Get in touch.
We said we could spot it. We said we could find it for you. And of course, people lose bags when it was, perfectly organised. The odd bag slipped off, went on the wrong flight, got dropped off on the conveyor belt, etc. And you still had to wait 3 or 4 days for your bag. Imagine what it's like now. They've got all of those bags and they're going to have to FedEx them because after so long, I think it's 3 hours. You can't sit at the airport. They send you home and they're freight forward it onto you. Well, FedEx, DPD, TNT, whoever it's going to be, they're going to do all right out of that. I mean, there's
ever lost a bag, mate? You ever lost a bag?
I haven't, but
I have. Flew to Belfast. I flew to Belfast and my bag didn't. It's only over there.
It went somewhere else in the world. So that's planes. Trains obviously speaks for itself at the moment. We know of the congestion that's happening all around the country due to the strikes. And as I understand it, they're continuing today into the weekend. I think Saturday's still another strike day. And negotiations and talks with Grant Shapps yesterday, the minister, didn't go too well. So they've already said, well, we're going to do it again next month as well. So looks like more strikes are on the horizon. Now, this is all affecting trade. This is all affecting international business, people to get into the office. We want to get people back in the workplace. That's the goal of most businesses now and the governments, get people back to the workplace. Well, if you can't get there, that's another problem in itself. And then finally, automobiles. We've been speaking about this for weeks. Well, you were out, or you are traveling around the country, Nick. Tell us the petrol prices, diesel prices that you've seen whilst on your journeys.
First thing is they're extremely varied. All right, I don't know how you're supposed to plan if you're running a business and you need fuel. I don't know how you're supposed to budget and plan ahead, because one day they're this, the next day they're that. Oh, down the road they're one thing, and up the road they're another. Really difficult, to just. I guess you shop around, but it's manic. Yesterday, on my way to this current location, saw petrol unleaded £2.4.9p a litre.
Wow. That is the highest I've heard of. I saw 1.99 the other day, and I thought, wow, that's expensive. It's not quite over the £2. I was going to ask the question on the show this morning, who's paid over £2 a litre? But you've seen it.
Paid it. I drove past.
You saw it as it drove past.
I've seen a lot of 199.9s, and I just think somewhere in some factory, someone's really busy trying to make the number 2 that fits into the things, right? Because no one's got a 2, otherwise they'd put the price up.
Yeah, I'm linked to. We've had him on the show in the past, Simon Saltbone from Step Tribe, who's based in the Netherlands. And they're at 2.25 a litre. Now, that is in euros. To do the calculations, it probably works out something like £2.20 a litre. So more expensive there. And it's interesting. Around the world, the US, we know they're hiking their prices as well. And they're shouting out because it's $5 a gallon in some places. $5 a gallon. And we did the equation previously. It was 4.5 litres to the gallon. So what they're paying is, tiny part with what we pay here. I think it works out like 75 pence a litre or something like that. So enjoy it. While it's, if you're watching from the US at 3 o'clock in the morning, enjoy it because you've got very low prices.
So it's difficult trying to navigate, certainly internationally, because we're talking about pounds sterling, there's dollars, we've got euros. We should get some sort of currency expert on the show to try and make sense of it all.
Yeah, dollars, euros, yen, the sterling, pounds. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different currencies out there. And of course, if you want to run a business and you are going to trade around the world, then you're going to be using different currencies, most probably, because you're going to have to accept payment in local currency. So it makes perfect sense then, Nick, if we get someone on the show that knows a little bit more than we do, which is probably not that hard. So straight after this, we'll come back and we're going to bring our first guest on the show. We're going to find out more about trading internationally. We're back straight after this. Welcome back to Chatbox, the Business Breakfast Show. If you're just tuning in with your cornflakes, slice of toast, or your banana, cup of coffee, stick with us because we've got an exciting 45 minutes coming up in the next hour. We'll be hearing from a couple of guests, but we're going to bring our first guest on this morning. Please welcome to the studio his debut here on Chatbox as well. So be kind, be nice. He's going to be sharing lots of great top tips with us this morning. Please welcome to the show, Tony Redondo from Cosmos Currency. Good morning, Tony, and welcome.
Thank you very much, David and Nick. Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Good morning. Tony, first off, where are you beaming in from this morning? Whereabouts in the world are you?
I'm beaming in from their well-known financial centre, Truro in Cornwall, in the southwest of the UK.
Brilliant. So down in the southwest, but that accent is not a Cornish accent, is it?
No, it's not. It's a bit of a mixture. I was born in Mozambique in Africa, 50 kilometres from Kruger National Park in South Africa.
Lovely.
My parents are Portuguese. I'm bilingual. And we arrived in Heathrow Airport in London in 1975 at the age of 9 without a word of English. And some people would argue not a lot has changed.
Your English is perfect, absolutely perfect. But anyway, regardless, it's great to have you on the show, and it's really important that we do broadcast internationally. A lot of our listeners and followers and viewers are from the UK for obvious reasons, but we do get people. We've had guests from sub-Saharan Africa, from South Africa, North America, Australasia, into the Middle East and Far East as well. So we're getting people all around coming on and sharing top tips. But international business, to me, is very culture related. You need to understand locally what's happening, and it's very good to find partners and work with people on the ground. But you're obviously working with lots of SMEs and larger size corporates as well, doing currency. So tell us a little bit more about what it is that you actually do, so we get a kind of a painted picture of what Tony does on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, thank you. So we are payments solution specialists. In a nutshell, we have access, so we can give access to over 35 currencies, receive funds from and send funds to over 50 countries around the globe. There's about 175 currencies around the world, but 99% of trading is done in the top 16 currencies. The dollar itself accounts for about 75% of all trades. Is by far the biggest and most important currency. And our job is to help clients save time and money on their bank account to bank account currency exchange transfers. So whether a client is based in the UK and is paying suppliers abroad, or employing overseas remote workers, or has got a satellite office abroad, or indeed the other way around. You have you're in the UK, but for example, Nick will go off and do a speaking engagement somewhere around the world. And one of the true things of life, isn't it, is the easier you make life for people, chances are the more business you're going to do, the better the relationship, the more hurdles you take out of their way. So one of the things that we do that's quite unusual in the industry is if, for instance, you're in the UK, you want to set up, but you think, oh my God, now I've got to open multi-currency accounts. And of course, the banks are going to start charging, and there's all these application forms to fill in and God knows what else. You don't need to do that. You simply register with a currency expert like Cosmos, and we have collection accounts in New York for US dollars, Toronto for Canadian dollars, and Frankfurt for euros, so the main three, so that you then register with us, you quote our client collection account on your invoice. You don't have to open up a dollar account or a Canadian account or a euro account. The money's going to that account, and we can monitor the markets so that when the time is right to convert that currency back to sterling, so you get the most sterling in your sterling account, we can alert you to that opportunity and then do the transaction for you.
That sounds like a smooth operation, Tony. So I've done some work not that long ago in Germany, a German client. And it was quite a faff. Certainly getting paid, no real problem, apart from, of course, they want to pay in euros. And then the VAT man is very interested. And what am I supposed to do from a VAT point of view? So, right, let's say, right, I really enjoyed working in Germany. I want to do some more of that. So I tap up my client and we're doing a regular thing. Okay. And it's a different kind of VAT process for me because they're paying VAT and I'm not on the stuff that I've earned over there, as far as I understand. Don't quote me on that, but the VAT man hasn't knocked on my door, so something went right. So,
not yet, Nick. He now knows who's coming.
What's that noise? What's that noise?
So, do you kind of take care of that side of things as well, or is it just purely right? You've been paid in euros. We'll take care of that. Now's a good time to cash it back into sterling.
We purely take care of the actual currency exchange. But obviously, working in industry, both for private clients or charity, we have business clients of all sizes. We help charities. We have private clients as well. If a client has a need for some information, we've got the contacts to point the client in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I know from having businesses based out of other countries. It can be very daunting. You're going to say even a satellite office with 1 or 2 people, or just an in-country sales representative.
Yeah.
From my perspective, from my own experience, the best way of doing it is finding local people that firstly will speak the language, the lingo, understand the culture, understand how businesses operate and work, and has access to the experts in country. Just like Nick is talking about, you're going to speak in another country and they want invoicing to understand the tax complications and the accounting complications that happen there. So I've always said the best way, if you want to get into running a business or operating a business in other countries, to find the right partners to work with. With our guest coming up on the show later will be to help us and steer us in a bit more of that direction as well. But for you, your clients are kind of all, you're working with are UK based and then based over in various countries, or are they based in, other international countries, and then trading back to the UK? What do you find? Is it a mix of what your customers are requesting and working with you? And also, second question, what's the biggest currency you're working with? Is it sterling? Is it dollars? Is it euros? Is it something different?
Okay, so the easy one first. 95% of my currency exchange transfers to clients involve sterling. Outside of sterling, you'll be dollar more than the euro. Dollar, then euro, and then it's Australian dollar and Canadian and Swiss francs and South African rand and Norwegian kroner and a whole host of other things that come in a way. Local partners are great. But I always use the analogy, if you're going to go and buy a property, for example, in a holiday home or that you're going to use a couple of months a year, and the rest of the time you rent out, as an additional income, it makes a lot of sense to have a local solicitor. Of course it does, because they're regulated, they know the local laws, they speak the language. But let's say you don't speak the language. Would you be happy with that arrangement? Or perhaps would you feel more comfortable having 2 solicitors, one in the UK that speaks your language and one in a locality where you're buying? Make sure that you're not going to commit yourself to something that you haven't really understood, either because of the language barrier or cultural barrier or something that just never occurred to you. So yeah, local partnerships are great, but what we can do is actually be your point of contact with the local contacts as well. Because, for instance, a lot of people think, great, the United States, biggest market in the world, and it is. But 90% of business transactions in the United States are still settled by the checkbook.
Check, yeah. I've got clients in the US, and luckily they do pay me. They do pay me by electronic transfer, but initially they wanted to send me a check.
That's right.
And it is very archaic, and it's because the way their banking system works. It's a local bank. When I say local bank, we kind of refer to HSBC saying the local bank, but their bank is like the bank of the town, and it is the local bank or the county bank, isn't it? So
exactly,
they still use fax machines. This is what boggles me. That everything they do is done on fax. I mean, here's a question to all our listeners and viewers, and a question to Nick, because he's going to go, yeah, I've still got a fax machine. Do you even still own a fax machine? And when was the last time you pressed start on a fax machine to send or receive? Archaic, but in one way, they're very advanced, and in other places, they're, it's still kind of, 10, 15 years behind what we see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, retail outlets, really, it's only in the major cities in the last year that they're beginning to introduce chip and pin. Before that, you put a card in the old machine back from the 80s and 90s and put the old bits of paper and sign the back of it, and they're still using that. It is incredible.
There'll be people watching this right now thinking, I've lost them. I don't know what they're talking about. What do you mean fax
ancient
machine?
history?
What do you mean credit cards with a carbon copy? People going, too old, too long ago.
Exactly.
So,
that is absolutely
true. In theory, Tony, if I was dealing with a client in the States and they wanted to pay me by check, sounds like a blooming nightmare. My first book, I think I used to get checks from somewhere in the States, commission checks, and they weren't worth cashing. Right? Yeah. That says two things: that it's a pain in the backside, and I wasn't selling enough books. So if they sent all the checks to you, right? Is that a service? Is that part of how it works?
No, because US checks take 11 weeks to clear. 11 weeks to clear, which is just insane, as you say. And then, of course, the bank charges and all the rest. So the simple solution, well, you've got two choices. The traditional choice is you think, right, I'm going to go big internationally. So I'm going to go down to my local bank and open up a US dollar account. And then they can pay automatically into that. Terrific. What you perhaps don't realize is that you're not making life easy for your American client, because even if they bank with one of the big banks in the United States that has online banking, the online banking system in the United States only works within the United States. So the minute you ask it to send dollars to a dollar account in London, it goes, can't compute, can't do it. So that's why we've reversed things. And we've got a US dollar collection account that clients can pay into in New York, so that your client can then pay directly via online banking from wherever they are in the States, whether it's Texas or California or Seattle or wherever they happen to be, via ACH, which is their local online banking system, to the bank account in New York. We bring it back to London, convert it back to sterling for you. So makes life a lot easier. There's no bank charges. It's all done, same day or next day. And something very unusual in our industry now, in the last 20 years, has gone away from relationship-based business models to transaction-based, based on technology. But we will monitor the markets for clients within their chosen time frame to alert them to opportunities. So again, just because the funds arrive today doesn't mean I'll automatically convert back to sterling. If the pound happens to be, a little bit stronger today, I would have done a discovery session with yourselves, find out when you want the sterling in your account, and then you can get on with the rest of your lives. And I can monitor the markets so that when the dollar's strongest against the pound, I will alert you and say, Nick, Dave, it's now a good time to convert it. Would you like me to go ahead? Yeah. And I'll handle the whole process for you.
Absolutely. Sounds great. It's going to be super useful, Nick, when we're on the international stage, when we're in Vegas, speaking and hosting our events there. We know where to turn when we need to get our check cashed and the dollars repatriated into sterling or maybe another currency, because by then, Nick, we can go and, sit on the beach somewhere, and enjoy the sunshine and a pina colada or something like that, because we'd have made it by then, Nick. We'd be famous, and the Anton Deck of the business world will be well renowned and known. Tony, coming to the end of our fantastic conversation this morning, how can people get in touch with you? Because if the people are thinking about, do you know what, currency, I'm thinking about buying a property abroad, investing in a business, starting a business, I've got money caught up in various different banks and funds, and I need to get it back into a currency of choice. How can people get in touch with you?
Okay, so the website URL www.𝗂𝗵𝗁𝐺currencyexchange.com, or you can get hold of me directly. Free phone number 0300 124 6409, or by email directly to me, Tony Redondo at 𝗂𝗵𝗁𝐺currencyexchange.com.
Fantastic. And one final question we ask all our guests. Nick will have his pen, there it is, at the ready. We ask all our guests that come onto the show to share a top tip, a top business tip that you can share with people that may be starting their business, maybe running their business. What would be that tip that you'd like to share with them today?
Oh, that's a difficult one because there's plenty of choices. Certainly, I had a very long apprenticeship.
Allowed one as well.
Only allowed one. Okay, I would, without hesitation, to be fair, I would say follow your gut instincts. It's very easy to get paralyzed by analyzing yourself to death. It's never a perfect time to do anything in life, but sometimes you just got to go with what you've got. And certainly, my life experiences there. After a 35-year corporate career, I launched 𝘄𝗵𝗄 in the middle of a lockdown.
Yeah.
Was it a great time to start? In one way, it was a disaster. In another way, it was a perfect time to start. But you just got to run with what you've got when you've got it.
We'll mark you down as a Tony, as a pandemic startup business. We've had a few on here, and we always say, lots. We've had lots on here, haven't we? And it's been great to hear their stories and the challenges they've faced. So what we'll do, we'll leave it probably another 6, maybe 9 months. We'll definitely get you back onto the show and find out how things have progressed, because now we're going to talk more about it in a moment, but we're in the perfect storm, aren't we? We're now at inflation at its all-time high in 40 years. And so you thought you had it tough starting a business in the pandemic. Things are just about to get a little bit more bumpy along the way. But it's been great having you on here, Tony. Great to have this conversation with this morning, learn a little bit more about currency exchange and what we should be thinking about, and and learning that they still write checks over in the USA as well. Tony, from Cosmos Currency, thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you.
Thanks. We're back after this.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. I'll tell you what, it seemed at the start of the conversation seemed like, right, this seems quite complex, but then Tony got stuck in, and this makes perfect sense. And just let the experts deal with the money, and double. It's a win-win, right? So they take the hassle and grief out of the transaction. Plus, they got their eyes on the market, so you get an even better exchange. What a great solution. The only trick now, mate, is to start trading internationally. Okay, and get the rubles flowing. No, maybe the dollars flowing in that case, and the euros flowing. Anything other than, I guess I see that Tony didn't mention rubles. I guess nobody trades in that anymore, right? So yeah, let's get the dollars flowing. Let's get the euros flowing. How do we make those steps and get our business from here to there?
Yeah, absolutely. I did notice in the live comments what was one of those machines. If for those that don't know, can't remember, maybe weren't born in that particular decade, but in the days before chip and pin, before Apple Pay, before actually even swiping your credit card, there was the manual machine, because that's all we had. I do remember them very well back in the early 90s, kind of when they started to phase out. But you put your card in, you put a bit of 3-copy carbon in, and you swiped it across, the imprint come out, and then you had to sit there and handwrite everything in. Can you imagine that in shops today? The queue, it'd be halfway down the street, wouldn't it, when people are trying to transact on a card? But question is, Nick, how many people actually use cash in their business today? And when I say use cash, how many of you as a consumer use cash to buy your weekly shop, i.e. the things that you're going down the high street or supermarkets, even out on experience days? I was at Centre Parks all weekend. They tell you no cash accepted anywhere. So everything has to be transacted on a card or through electronic payments like Apple Pay, etc. I think more businesses are going, I don't accept cash. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't refuse it, but I don't even make a point of saying I take it, because most of my clients will never pay by cash anyway in any of my businesses. So the question is, how many of you still take cash? Maybe from a retail perspective as well, because I think in retail, it's kind of more accepted that someone might walk in and want to pay cash for a haircut, maybe, for those type of services. Even if you go to Tesco's now, and other supermarkets do exist, But you'll notice a lot of the tills say card only, very limited for cash payment services. Are we seeing the end of an era? Are we seeing the demise of cash? Should it stay? The banks on the high streets are disappearing very, very quickly. Everywhere banks are just going. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? It tells me that people are not using them. And that's what they're telling us as well.
Yeah, strange, isn't it? We're 100 days away from the phasing out of paper £20 notes and £50 notes. Ladies and gents, check under your mattresses. Those old 20s and 50s, you won't be able to spend them in 100 days' time. You'll have to take them to the bank and explain away why you've got a suitcase full of old £50 notes. So, you know, the investment is new notes, more durable. I guess, you know, they'll last a lot longer. But how long? You know, on my tour, so I've been touring the north up in Scotland, I've had to get cash out once. Went for a meal, cash only. Right? It was one place. Everywhere else, it's been Apple Pay.
That concerns me. And I've had this conversation in the past. We talked about going for a haircut, and it was cash only. And I'm never going to go back there, and haven't been back since. But going to a restaurant,
thought your hair was looking a bit ropey, mate.
I know. Yeah, going to a restaurant or anywhere that says cash only just says one thing to me: what are you doing with that cash? How much of that's being declared? How much, if you are VAT registered, are you keeping the VAT, the 20% in your own pocket? Are you really paying it into the government's coffers? So there's lots of questions. From my perspective, I'd be happy if cash went tomorrow. I've got no need for it. I don't want it. It's absolutely a hindrance to me. But I understand we need to keep it. And for some, they'll argue it gives me freedom. But I love the comment, Nick, you just mentioned about if you've got a suitcase of 20 and £50 notes. But that's the reason the bank do change the currency. It's not because the notes are getting all tatty and that, and we're going to have some new polymer ones. It's because they know that there's people out there with money under the mattress, i.e. kind of semi-laundering and not declaring. And it's a quick way to, well, what are you going to do with it all? Because you can't walk into a bank, as you say, with a suitcase and say, can I change all of this? Because alarm bells and questions will be asked. And that's one of the big reasons that we do this change of currency notes and coins and stuff like that as well.
Every day is a school day, right?
Every day is a school day. So before we bring our next guest onto the show, let's just touch on the rates of inflation. Some of you probably heard yesterday, the rate of the consumer prices index inflation rose slightly, only by 0.1%, but it's now at 9.1% based on May. It's up from April by that 0.1%, where it was 9%. Figures are provided by the Office of National Statistics. So my question, before we bring our next guest on, is Britain broken? There's a big question mark at the end now. I'm not saying it is. I'm asking the question, is Britain broken? No trains, flight chaos, petrol prices keep going up, energy costs are soaring, cost of living crisis is definitely upon us, whether you're a business or consumer. It's challenging out there. Mix all this in with everything that's been happening in the past, war, Brexit, pandemic. Are we in that perfect storm? As Nick and I were talking about last week, is the big reset upon us? And how is it for you running your business? Do you find it challenging at the moment? Are you just going against all odds and, hey, this is a breeze? Or is it, kind of a few bumps and lumps in the road?
So we're not alone, right? So we're not the only country struggling right now. So it does lend itself to the big reset, whatever that might look like. I'll tell you one thing for sure, and please correct me if I'm wrong, businesses out there, but I'll be very surprised. I bet small to medium businesses haven't looked at the state of the world and said, no problem, we'll put our prices up 10%. I'll tell you what, I bet the majority of small to medium enterprises have not looked at this year and said, right, boom, all right, we're struggling a bit, prices up 10%. Please correct me, everybody, right? Get on all the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Let me know if you put your prices up. Because if you have, that will give the rest of us confidence to say, okay, great. So that gives me permission to put my prices up as well. Because everywhere else, prices are going up. And I almost guarantee it, us small to medium enterprises aren't putting ours up.
No, absolutely. I haven't raised my prices this year. And at the moment, I don't plan to. I don't feel I need to. Yes, costs are going up. So travel for me is, like everybody, because of the cost of fuel and stuff like that. But I'm still doing a proportion of what I do virtually and remotely, and then obviously meeting with clients face to face. And I've kind of offset it, I suppose, a little bit. That is, I do have an electric car. So yes, even though electric prices have gone up, the fuel costs that are soaring are not affecting me directly. So it means I can keep that part of the cost pretty even at the moment. But yeah, lots of arguments and debates there. We know that's one of the big drivers for the strikes that we're seeing on transport and stuff like that, that they looking for, increasing costs. And I hear that's possibly teachers and the NHS as well that are going to be striking soon as well, because they want their pensions aligned and stuff like that with inflational rises. So it is a little bit of a mess at the moment. It's the only words I can use. And we need a government, not to be political, Nick. We need a government that's going to stand up and sort it.
So if you're not putting your prices up, are you increasing your wages, right, of your team? And this is not a question specifically to you, my friend, but to us small and medium enterprises. Okay, if on the one hand we're not putting our prices up, are we paying our people more? Right, because the rail workers, the teachers, a lot of people out there, quite rightly, want more money because it's more expensive. Are we under pressure too to increase the wages of our teams to try and keep track on everything that's going up? And if so, surely we've got to put our prices up. It's a real dilemma. And I think it's one of the questions that we can ask our next guest, right? What he sees out there. I know we're going to talk about international business, but this fella knows business, right? He works with a lot of organizations. Fortunately, we can ask him absolutely anything. What do you reckon?
Sounds great.
So, without further ado, let's get this font of all knowledge on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, from the DIT, please welcome the magical Mr. Ben Peterson.
Hi, guys.
Morning, Ben.
Good
How
morning.
are you, my friend?
Morning,
you all right?
Morning. Yeah, good. Thanks. Very well. Good.
Excellent.
Yeah, good.
Well, I just fed in there with the fact that you can answer absolutely anything. So that's great. I can already see you've got some quality books behind you. A copy of Modern Zombies. Brilliant. Love to see that in all shots. So, Ben, for the benefit of our lovely audience, please let them know who are you and what it is you do.
Yeah, sure. My name's Ben Peterson. I'm the marketing manager for the East of England region for the Department for International Trade. And in the simplest form, what we try and do is find businesses to help them sell their goods and services overseas. So, as I say, as simple as that, really. So my role is as a marketeer is to try and find businesses that we perhaps haven't worked with before, that are either keen to explore exporting, selling their goods and services overseas, or have been doing a bit of reactive exporting. So they might have had some orders from overseas and started to ship a few things, but thought, okay, this is interesting. Could we do more of it? And of course, work with experienced exporters. So really from your one-man band, possibly selling online, right through to the very big organizations, and along the way on that export journey, there's different things that DIT can help with. So yeah, that's it. That's what we do.
Fantastic. Now, I've had first-hand experience of the DIT, and you're going to be pleased to know it's been great experience. So I'm going to do a bit of a plug for you here. In one of my businesses, we went over to Mobile World Congress, and we were looking for seed startup, and we were on one of your international Great Britain is great. Great Britain is great. Great experience. And just alone, firstly, it was partially funded, so that was lovely. It always helps, a little bit of added money into the pot to help these things happen. But just in the marketing alone, as you say, you're the marketing guru, was worth its weight in gold. Connecting us at the show with other people, the social media noise that was created, very, very worthwhile. And what we're trying to do is we're looking to obviously grow that particular business onto an international platform and get investment from various sources as well. So firstly, I just want to say thank you. I know it might not be you personally, but a combined team make those things possible. But I've got this book here, which is the one that we were given with all the various exhibitors in. And I'm just going to read the paragraph off the back. The UK's Department of International Trade, DTI, helps businesses export, drives inward and outward investment, negotiates market access and trade deals, and champions free trade. And that's kind of, I suppose, your USP in a nutshell. What are businesses at the moment finding tough? I mean, is it Brexit? Is it the pandemic? Is it, you know, the new systems and paperwork and processes? What, from your experience, are you kind of finding from businesses that want to import and export?
That's a great question. What we're finding is, as you've been discussing earlier, the perfect storm, if you like. So obviously, we business had to deal with Brexit, the Brexit scenario, and a lot of questions arose in terms of, you know, how are we going to trade? How do we trade? So we did an awful lot of work trying to prepare businesses, which was tricky in terms of what was coming, because a lot of it was still unknown. We then, obviously, businesses had to manage the transition period. And I think you hit the nail on the head, really, is the biggest issue a lot of businesses find is the paperwork, is how do they get their goods and services overseas? And of course, when there was obviously the EU free trade process, it was a lot more streamlined, and now we're having to find a way to deal with all the new variances of paperwork across certainly the European countries. But what this did do was open up the opportunity, really, to look further ahead than Europe. Obviously, it made sense to trade, and that would be one of the first pieces of advice any of our advisors would give, is have a look at markets close to you, close to home. You know, are they English speaking? Are their borders close to us? You know, that would be where we'd sort of say would be a place to start if you're a new exporter. But what Brexit brought about was the opportunity to look a little bit further afield. So, in a sense, to export to places like America, Australia, Canada, it was a little bit more complex. But now I think we're becoming more able to look at those bigger markets. And what we do at DIT is trying to equip companies to understand the nuances of that better. It isn't easy. The environment for any business, for us as individuals, is very difficult, as you've discussed this morning. So it's not something that we approach with a sort of, you know, it's easy to do a sort of a pitch, if you like. One of the key things we do is try and stress just how complex it can be exporting your goods. But what we do stress also is that there's tons of support available, not just from DIT, but from lots of partners, depending on where you're located in the country. A lot of local authority groups, local enterprise partnerships, Innovate UK. There are lots and lots of organizations that have very skilled people that have been working in the private sector that are there to help you. And in most cases, for free. It is paid for already. And what you have to do is invest your time and energy into working with these people to get the best out of them. And what I've found is we have a group of international trade advisors in our team and across the UK. And the businesses that get the most out of the relationship with those people, you know, do make real inroads in terms of selling their goods overseas, their goods and services overseas. So the more they invest in terms of giving up some of their time to bring those skilled advisors on board, the more they get out of it. So yeah, I would say you've touched on you know, a number of the elements that businesses are faced with today. So not just, you know, hike of prices, obviously paying staff, but one of the other key elements to consider is that we've always promoted the fact that evidence does state that if you can make your business more resilient by exporting. So if you are able to start to look at selling overseas, it can add an element of resilience to your business. So you're not just solely focused on the UK. If you can bring in sales from other markets, it does help give your business that element of resilience, as difficult as it can be at times. So yeah, that's
makes sense, doesn't it, to expand that portfolio? A couple of questions for you, Ben. Because of the complexity and I guess the state of various markets over the last few years, is that putting people off All right, that's my first question. Is it putting people off, or is it the case where there's a will, there's a way? And can any business, right, if anyone knocks on your door, is there a good chance that absolutely any business can start trading internationally? First of all, is it putting people off? And second, can we all do it?
Another good question, Nick, or two questions. Firstly, is it putting people off? I would say no. And I can say that quite confidently. We've just launched, or we've launched not so long ago, the Export Academy program. So the Export Academy program is aimed at new exporters essentially, but it's very useful across the board depending on where you are in your export journey, we found. But what it is a series of modules that look at the essentials to exporting. And I can say that there's an appetite still there for selling your goods and services overseas, just through the numbers that we see attend these modules. So I'm confident there are still people, businesses, entrepreneurs, looking to try and sell their product, their service overseas, and they're looking for help on how to do this. The battle for us, for me particularly in the region, but also for my colleagues around the UK, is getting the message out to these businesses, to these individuals, to these people that are keen still to try and launch a product or to sell it overseas, is how to find us, is how to find the support, or not just us, but as I said, all the other partners that are there to support. So I'd say there's still an appetite. People are still keen to push themselves, to find ways to change their path, I suppose, if they're currently working for someone, or their current career path has changed, as you already alluded to, or your previous guest who launched his business in lockdown, as many people did. They took it as an opportunity to focus and reset, and some didn't have the option. It was sort of almost forced on them to find a way because other things changed. So there's definitely appetite. So that's my answer to that question.
That's good news. Yeah, great.
And the second part of the question was,
can anybody do it?
Can anybody?
Right. So a training company that specializes in communication, human-centric communication, for example, can they export themselves?
Yeah, I think anybody can. I suppose the litmus test is if you've got a product or service that you can sell in the UK, then it's almost certainly exportable. The key thing there then is to consider, which market is it most suitable for. And again, through the Export Academy, the modules explore different ways in which you can research that, in which you can decide on, what would be a good market, what would be a good fit. I guess some mistakes that are made along the way could be just assuming that you've got a good service, a good product, and it can go anywhere. It's not often the case. It might not be applicable to a certain market. If you're delivering your service in English, then of course you're not possibly going to be able to export that to a non-English speaking country. So you might have to think of a different way to do that. Now, it's still not doable, but it might be more complex. It may be that you need translation. You need to perhaps work with a partner that speaks the language of that market, and give them the ability to provide the service that you provide. I guess in your case, Nick, you are the brand, and so that might be a little bit more tricky for you, but not doable, because you could easily train people to deliver the service that you do, but it's just finding the right people. So I would say, if a good litmus test is if you can sell the goods or services in the UK, then you can start to explore other markets.
Yeah, don't worry, we can always export Nick. It's not a problem. We can send him off in a package. We can FedEx him anywhere around the world. If you want Nick, we will package him up and send him on his merry way. Let's talk about free ports very briefly. East of England, which is your area, has 3 free ports: Harwich, Felixstowe, Thames Gateway at Tilbury. So a little bit controversial in some ways, because some see them as tax havens and potential points of money laundering. What is your feelings as the DIT on these free ports? I think they're a good thing, managed well. Do you see this being the future, these free ports where things can be kind of stored and ready for shipment, and obviously fees and costs and taxes don't apply until such time later on?
What do you mean, mate, by free ports?
I'll let the
exactly
expert
what it
talk
is?
about free ports, but we have these free ports all around the country. I think there's 8 around the country, if I remember rightly. It just happens the East of England has 3 of them. We're very lucky, purely because obviously the shipping lanes and stuff like that. But from a DTI's point of view, free ports, good, bad? Yeah, maybe I haven't summarised it very well, so maybe you can summarise it into a line or two, what they mean for the UK economy.
No pressure, Ben. Come on, just sort
no pressure.
out.
Yeah, so the free port question is a good question, David. Now, my focus is trade. So my focus, the job I do is trade, so overseas trade. I'm not part of the investment team, but what I can do is tell you how a free port really helps UK businesses overseas. And I can give you a good example of a recent trade mission that I led to Dubai for the retail and consumer market or sector to explore the UAE and the opportunities over there. So trade missions are really one of the great elements that DIT, as you alluded to, David, the trip that you went on, is where we bring a group of like-minded businesses together, take them into market, and through a series of events, activities, introduce them to what's there, what to expect. In the case of some more experienced exporters, the key thing we try and do is link them up with buyers, if you like, in the simplest form, people that really are interested in doing business with them and connect them while they're in market. And on that trip we did to Dubai, we visited 2 free zones, if you like, aimed at e-commerce, particularly for the retail consumer sector. And similarly to what the UK is trying to do, obviously to encourage inward investment, to encourage more businesses to set up in the UK, what a free port or a free zone allows a UK business to do, particularly in the UAE, is allows on scale, depending on how you want to enter the market. So if you're a sort of small to medium-sized business, you may not have the resource that the bigger businesses do. So a free port would allow you to test the market, let's say, and in doing so, keep your overheads down. In particular, the free ports that we visited have also a lot of not just warehousing, not just a zone where you can take your goods in and, as you said, David, you're not liable to tax until those goods move from the free zone. But they also provide wraparound services. So marketing solutions, logistics, key partnering expertise, even the e-commerce expertise. So, I do think they are good for trade. And I believe if the UK can do it well, again, from the investment perspective, it'll be good for the UK in terms of encouraging inward investment. But I say they're a good way for a small to medium-sized business to explore the market. And what the free port will allow, certainly the free ports we visited in Dubai, is allow a smaller business to, as I say, test the water and then expand as their business grows to a point that they may then want to take their business actually into market and set up once they've got the confidence that their product works well, that they have the sort of logistics, the infrastructure in place, and that the business is growing in the sort of right way. So I'd say hopefully that's a decent answer.
It's a thumbs up for the free zones, the free ports. I'm kind of, I shouldn't be, but I'm flabbergasted by the amount of support that's out there, Ben. How does one, let's say, training business or any other business get hold of this kind of support? How do we sign up for the Export Academy? How does that work?
Well, the Export Academy is fairly straightforward to sign up for that. So if you search great.gov.uk, you can find a lot of the services that DIT offer. And Export Academy is just one of those. So you can register And once you're registered, you can obviously input your information so we can get a bit of a better feel for you. But once you're registered with the Export Academy, you'll see all the events listed there. So the core modules, so there's 10 modules. I don't know if you want me to run through what they are, but they're typically things like understanding the benefits and barriers of export, international market research, that's a key one, basic export procedures. So that's the sort of paperwork, understanding things like Incoterms. I don't know if you've covered that previously. Routes to market, again, your previous guest, Tony, he made some interesting comments about working with specialists. So if you're in market, certainly on the currency side, legal side, he made a very good point about having somebody in market and somebody that you work with in the UK that specializes in that. And the routes to market module looks at partners, agents, pros, cons. We also around the 10 modules, we also have value add activity events where we look at specialist elements of exporting, things like how to promote yourself, how to speak, how to pitch, Nick, and you know all about that because you've helped us and you've helped a lot of companies, deliver their pitch a lot better, to hone their skills in terms of, it's not easy. Even coming on your show, I'm sort of being tested here in terms of how do I pitch, what
you're doing very well, Ben. You're doing very well.
Yeah,
smiling, body language, don't slouch. So yeah, just try. So and we're doing on the 10th of August, actually, there's a partners and agents module that might be, it certainly will relate to what Tony was talking about, is, how to choose the right people to work with in market. And that is, again, the key thing is understanding that you don't have to do it all on your own. And in most cases, it's not as expensive as you think to work with people in market that can help you. And again, DIT have offices, consulates, embassies in over 130 countries around the world. So there's people like myself. So it's the push-pull scenario. There are people in market like myself that are trying to work with business there to try and identify opportunities for UK businesses, and it's our job to bring them together. So we're pushing the UK companies over there, and our colleagues in market are bringing them to the UK businesses.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's plenty of support.
And mindful we're running short on time.
Okay.
Right. So this is awesome. Right. So two things: how do people get hold of you or the DIT, and your, right, David likes to ask this question, your top tip, right, in all your travels, right, you're sitting down with your younger self, your top business tip that you would share with your younger self. So first of all, how do we get in touch with you? And what's your golden nugget of a tip that I can write down?
Okay, so getting in touch with DIT, best place, as I said, to start is great.gov.uk. Most points of access stem from that website in particular. If you're a company in the East of England, then you can email us at eastinfo@mobile.trade.gov.uk. If you want to pick up the phone and speak to us in the East of England, you can call us on 01707 398 398. If you want to speak to me in particular, just contact me via LinkedIn and I'll do my best to help. Top tip. So I guess my top tip would apply, to anybody, whether you're in business or the younger me, is to never be afraid to ask for help. And I think that, as I say, goes across your own sort of personal life, but also your business life. You will, as you've already alluded to, Nick, be surprised at just how much support is out there in the business world. And actually, things like the Business Breakfast Show, what you're doing is helping people understand that, if we talk about it, if we reach out, if we ask for help, it's often there, and it often comes from your peers. So things like the missions that David went on, you'll find that you're surrounded by like-minded people that have a desire to sell a service or a product. They want to do well. And even in the case where you feel like you're a competitor, it's often that those people are the most supportive because they just want you to do well. People genuinely want people to do well. And what I found in before I started working for DIT in previous businesses is that, you got the most out of talking with people that do what you do. And if you can overcome that sort of competitive element and actually, you know, start talking about the sort of things that you come across that you find difficult, you can actually find that the help is right there among the people, among your peer group. So I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help. Certainly, you know, people that you're associated with, people that you do business with, there's never a stupid question. So that would be my top tip.
Yeah, never a stupid question. I absolutely say that to everybody I speak to when I'm talking to groups. If you've got a question, no question is a silly question. Ask away, because there's probably someone else that doesn't know the answer or understand what it's all about in the first place. Ben, it's been great having you on here today. We could probably talk for another hour about all the things that make up the DIT and how you support SMEs and larger businesses as well, to get them trading on an international platform, importing, exporting, and well, as the back of the book says, championing free trade, of course, as well. So thank you very much for coming on here. No doubt we'll be asking you to come back on again soon when we have another show all about international trade.
Well, you're welcome, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ben.
All the best.
Cheers.
Well, there we go, Nick. Top of the hour, just ticked over 2 minutes past 9 on Thursday, the 22nd. It was summer solstice yesterday, the
23rd.
longest day.
23rd.
23rd? The 23rd, of course,
Sorry,
yes.
mate.
Yeah,
stolen a day from you.
This is also proving, by the way, this is not a pre-recorded show, because it is the 23rd. We are now losing 2 minutes a day. Sorry to put a bit of a downer on things, but it's going to start to get darker every day now. We reached that top of the world when the sun was booming. Now it's going to get darker day by day, slightly by slightly. But anyway, put that to one side. What a great show! 2 fantastic guests. I did pick up. We should have asked Ben about this. He popped into the chat actually. He put 14% of people carry cash these days. That was Ben's feedback on only 14% of people in the UK carry cash.
Just only that number carry cash. The rest don't bother with cash at all. See, on the back of my phone, mate, I've got a bank card, Apple Pay bank card, and a tenner, all in the case.
A tenner for the emergency tenner, of course.
I'm covered, mate. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
covered, whatever happens.
You know, whatever you're going to buy is going to be £10 and 10p or something like that. And
yeah, I'd have to negotiate.
You're going to have to negotiate. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, great show. We're back next week in the studio, and next week it's quite close to you at the moment, Nick, because you're gallivanting around the country. You're visiting various places. You're on a learning curve. And next
gallivanting, I'm working.
Well, working, gallivanting, going around the country, and you're doing it as a test as well for your own side of things. But next week, we're talking about digital nomads and hybrid working. And we're going to glean some of your knowledge and experience next week, Nick, plus our guests that will be joining us on the show. Is it possible to work whilst you travel around, in this case, Nick's case, around the country or around the world? Can it be done successfully? What are the pitfalls? What are the downsides? And what are the upsides, of course, as well? And we'll find out more on the show next week. Well, that's it. That's all we've got time for. It's bye-bye from me.
And cheerio from me.
See you next week.